Hello，大家好，又係我高 B 哥啊，係時間提醒大家飲水啦，增添智慧，增添水分，智慧如水啊！好啦，高 B 哥咧較早時間咧錄影片嘅時候咧，已經同大家透露咗咧，就話咧有影片同大家分享。咁啊，一陣間咧我會咧播出影片啊，大家咧真係咧千祈唔好喺中間走咗去，同埋咧俾少少耐性，因為咧呢一位咧係呢個咧軍情六處啊嘅一個專家，咁啊專係做咧中東情報噶，咁啊跟住咧變咗咧就係呢個外交官。咁啊，其實咧而家咧退咗落嚟啦，就係做咗一個智庫啦。咁啊，佢對中東嗰個情況咧非常之咁熟悉。咁啊，好多嘢咧，我哋咧原來咧冇聽過㗎嚇。我可以話俾你哋聽，我哋完全咧唔知道。我哋一路以為咧估算咧就係話佢哋表面做緊嘅嘢。啊，比如就話，琴日特朗普咧突然之間咧就話咧要咧封鎖呢個咧霍爾木茲海峽，係咪？咁就話喂唔可以咧俾呢個咧伊朗咧收到錢㗎。我咧就要斬斷呢個經濟嘅來源咁成。真係咩？原來唔係啊！原來背後係針對美元霸權，又或者係針對中國㗎。成件事佢一陣間會講得好清楚，我就唔喺度咧詳細咁講啦。咁啊，另外咧一方面咧，佢亦都透露咗，據佢所知道咧嘅軍力咧，如果咧要去打伊朗嘅話咧，根本咧而家美軍嘅軍力咧係打唔贏伊朗㗎。咁佢解釋咗咧，伊朗咧佢將佢嗰啲嘅武器收埋喺邊度啦，跟住咧係用咗咩嘅方法啦？根本啊美軍係打唔到佢哋啲武器嘅，而且咧佢哋有啲新型嘅導彈咧，美軍咧係唔知點樣去應付佢嘅。哇！聽到我咧手心都冒晒汗。咁跟住繼而咧就話咧，中國同埋俄羅斯咧其實喺背後咧係有發功㗎。咁但係咧呢啲咧係陽謀，唔係陰謀嚟㗎嚇。因為咧俄羅斯話到明㗎啦，第一，我喺呢個咧無人機嗰度幫助佢嘅。咁啊原來咧就係咧事緣啊呢個俄烏戰爭嘅時候咧，伊朗咧就幫咗咧俄羅斯好多喺關於咧無人機方面。咁但係咧佢就唔係照單全收啊，佢咧收咗翻去之後咧，佢就做改良㗎。咁啊改良完之後咧更加好用，更加咧精進嘅。咁啊跟住繼而咧，佢咧而家就反饋翻俾伊朗。咁啊等伊朗咧就做一個咧新型改進咗嘅嗰個叫做無人機。咁所以點解而家伊朗嗰啲無人機咧咁厲害，搞到美軍咧陀令啊，走嚟走去啊，唔夠膽埋去啊，又或者咧好似啲航母咁樣，哇走到老遠啊咁樣。而家好搞笑咁話咧封鎖呢個霍爾木茲海峽咧，其實咧係喺老遠嘅地方嚟嘅，同呢個咧霍爾木茲海峽可以咁講咧，都唔拉更啊！直情根本唔係霍爾木茲海峽嗰個位嚟㗎嚇，咁啊去到老遠嘅，咁啊喂有冇搞錯啊？人哋離開咗霍爾木茲海峽，可能係成1000公里先去到你嗰度，咁你都夾硬嚟嘅咩？係啊，佢真係夾硬嚟㗎。因為咧，如果大家冇聽過咧呢段嘅訪問咧，你真係唔知道咧，原來咧已經去到咁嚴峻㗎啦。去到咁嚴峻就係話，如果佢今次咧真係輸咗俾伊朗，或者咧喺談判嘅過程裏邊咧攞唔翻嗰個主導權嘅話咧，咁就大鑊啦。唉，我而家一路講一路開始個手心都又出汗啦。因為點解咧？因為對個美元霸權嘅衝擊實在太大啊！而且咧唔係因為咧中國做咗啲咩嘢，而係因為咧其他嘅國家對美國呢一輪嘅行為，包括咗佢咧喺度咧夾硬死保爛頂呢個咧叫做以色列啦嚇，都令到咧好多個國家已經咧係開始咧對佢咧實在太大嘅異議啊，太大嘅分歧。跟住繼而咧，甚至乎咧連中東啲酋長國咧都覺得，喂，真係唔對路喎，咁樣唔掂當喎。咁所以咧佢哋咧就作出一啲自保嘅行為。咁啊當然啦，特朗普咧好想勒住佢哋，但係佢又知道咧根本勒唔住，因為點解咧？因為咧如果咧真係咧我講嗰陣時咧喺佢話佢講嗰陣時應該講下，即係呢個軍情六處嘅呢個情報人員講俾你聽嘅話，佢真係咁樣繼續行落去嘅話咧，咁就大鑊啦。所以咧，點解我話今日呢條片咧，大家一定要好認真咁聽，甚至乎咧要分享出去嗱。咁啊嗱，有網友啊之前已經反映過㗎啦，高 B 哥你分享嗰啲影片咧，人哋咧嗰啲講英文嘅，我哋又唔係好識聽。咁但係咧，因為咧上面都有晒字幕㗎嚇，咁你話喂，我做緊嘢咧，我睇唔到啊，所以咧我咧就咁播一播，話當係支持高 B 哥你啦咁。咁啊當然就首先第一咧就多謝你嘅支持啦。咁但係咧我亦都咧希望你咧喺咧工作完咗之後咧，翻去咧再睇一次。點解咧？ 你睇完嗰啲字幕呢，你會發覺點解我今日咁緊張去講呢扎嘢？嗰啲嘢呢係我哋呢曾經不斷喺度睇到表面嘅症狀，但係實際上我哋唔知道背後呢，其實呢嗰個大國個博弈已經去到呢，哇！即係咬牙切齒啊，喺度咧交緊手啊。咁啊，點解大家都好似呢，就係你唔敢話我又唔好出聲咁樣呢？原來背後呢，大家打到呢輕輕含含噶。咁所以呢，呢啲事呢，你係唔可以唔知噶嘛？係咪？如果你唔知嘅話呢，咁你點樣去判斷跟住落嚟佢哋會點做啫？咁又或者你嗰啲老友有陣時同你拗下頸啊、講下數啊咁樣嗰啲咧，唔同你同意嗰啲咧，因為佢哋冇睇過高 B 哥肯分享出嚟嘅呢條影片啊，睇完之後佢就知道，哦，原來咁，哇，咁真係好大鑊喎，可能佢都會咁樣噶。嗱，當然佢好理性就會咁樣啫。如果佢係咪都親美嘅，係咪都係咧呢個咧川粉嚟嘅，係都要親阿特朗普嘅話咧，咁啊係啊，咁啊所以咪要咁樣做咯。嗱咁樣嗱，佢哋嘅角度就會係咁。不過唔需要同佢拗嘅 ，OK？等佢睇完之後，我同你都喺度講緊剝花生嘅啫。我同你又控制唔到或者改變唔到啲咩嘢。不過我哋知道咗，我哋係咪可以考慮下喺裏邊做定一啲準備嘅功夫呢？唉，好啦，喂，唔講咁多啊，去片俾大家聽下先啊。
Iran, it's from what you've described. If Iran were to achieve those goals, or even the majority of those goals, it would be a major global power, not just a regional power, it seems to me.
Yes, exactly. And this is why, I mean, what is happening in Iran and with Hormuz portends a big shift in the global path, because already we see, signs of this taking place. Their demand that every ship passed has got to confirm that its cargo is paid for in advance. And we're seeing, consequentially, Russia has already announced that in future, any sales, any purchases of Russian oil or gas or products by Europe will have to be in yuan from now on. That's it. Then you've seen a big European bank, Deutsche Bank, now stopping, if you like, the issuance so much of their debts in dollars, and are issuing pound bonds. That is, bonds based in either the digital renminbi or the ordinary renminbi, and it was a huge success. People have been, it's been oversubscribed, people coming back and taking this. So what they're doing is actually, if you like, in a small way, but they're trying to catalyze an economic shift away from the very leveraged, financialized economic world, which incidentally has been so damaging to America and Europe too, because it's prioritized the financialized world at the expense of the real economy and real jobs. And it's all about trading and making money by trading or something else, but it isn't from making goods. No one does that now. Not enough money in it. You can make more money in an hour on the stock markets trading across futures markets and other things. So it's also part of, if you like, that greater project that the Chinese and Russians are engaged in, of going back to much more self-sufficient economies that are not just based on financialized products and dealings, but actually produce things for people, and therefore can pay salaries to people. And they think this is, what they need to move towards, and they want to change the Gulf in that direction by persuading them to deal with Iran, that they have no choice, but they need to deal with Iran, and they should give up, if you like, all these big data centers by Amazon and AI centers, and should change to a much more simple economy.
So I think it's been clear from an American perspective since the first days of the war between Russia and Ukraine that the U.S. dollar as the global reserve currency was in retreat, and it was obviously going to change at some point. It always was. And maybe that could be managed in some way. You're describing a very abrupt change. I mean, if a fifth of the world's energy is settled in Chinese currency, that seems like just the end of the dollar as the global reserve currency, or maybe I'm overstating it.
I mean, I don't think that is the aim. I think the aim at this point is to construct enough pain to get leverage over the West and to get them to understand, because it's not just oil and gas passing through Hormuz. It is also the precursors for equipment, helium and sulfuric acid and all these things that we need for our supply lines. So it's, if there's a parallel, I would say that the sort of second part of it is a parallel to what we've seen in China. When Mr. Trump imposed those tariffs, high tariffs, 155%, China started saying, well, I'm sorry, we're going to impose restrictions on rare earths and important minerals also until you bring down the tariffs. And that was achieved by China by using that leverage to bring about a change in the trading system there. And in a sense, Hormuz Straits gives the opportunity, particularly if the Red Sea is included, where so much of the world's commodities pass. And of course, Ansar, the Houthis, are quite capable of controlling that in a similar sort of way. So yes, it is a change in that direction. But China, I believe, is very careful. I was in China at the end of last year, and I was very much aware that they are cautious because the way they've applied AI in China is not in the way we do it in the West. I was talking to some of the factory owners, and he said, look, Alistair, when, at the beginning of this year, I take a typical factory, I employed 2,000 men. It's now 200, 1 year later. And he said, all of that is because we apply soft AI. You can call it robotics or automation or automatics or whatever, but we apply soft AI for productivity to get our costs down. And our costs are falling, manufactured costs are falling by 2%. And I turned to him and I said, that's terrible, because, we can never compete with that. You must be aware that's quite dangerous, because you are entering a Thucydides point. And because we have cost inflation and you have cost deflation, this is not going to be a very easy thing. So you have to manage this, your Thucydidean point, with great care. Otherwise, you end up in a worse conflict with the West. But the Chinese don't want to push themselves to the forefront, displace the United States and the special currency. But they could do it. You're right. You could do it tomorrow. For example, when I use WeChat there in China, it has 1.4 billion users on that one platform. 1.4 billion. And you can pay, you can take insurance, you can get a loan, everything you want on that. They could roll that out so easily. I mean, the scale is already there. They could roll it out across Asia tomorrow. But I don't think they want to do that. They're not trying to create a crisis that will affect the whole of the trading system of the world, because China depends, on trade. And it doesn't want to break the system, but it wants to gently move the system in a different direction.
You mentioned that Iran, between the end of the 12-day war in June and the start of this war at the end of February, had received quite a few decoys from China. Is that the extent of the military aid that the Iranian government has received from the Xi government?
No. But, people say, well, I don't see anything. We don't see it in Iran. No, because you wouldn't see it. because what they had provided is that the Iranians used to use GPS, and the West was found it quite easy to disrupt GPS signals when they wanted to, or to spoof them into thinking it was a different location from it. The Iranians had gone on to the Russian system first of all, but now at the beginning of this period after the June War, they moved into Beidou, the Chinese digital system, which is linked to their satellite. They have a complete satellite system, as you know, over the Earth, and we've seen some of the pictures from them. They're very good. And they also, in the agreement, in the cooperation agreement between Iran and China, agreed that they might have access to the highest grade military quality digital communication system of Beidou. So the satellite system, there are Earth receivers in Iran. The satellite system is linked to that, and the radars are linked through Beidou to a single command post, or to each single, if you like, missile city to provide the targeting and the data. And during the first stages of this, they also put one of their intelligence ships called Ocean One off the coast, the Persian coast, which was able to intercept communications. It was also able to map undersea. In other words, they could map any Israeli or United States submarines that were operating. All of this was linked, and it's linked in a sort of huge digital map that is available, which gives the targets, and it gives the way in which those targets can be attacked, what type of missile can be used. It was used by the Pakistanis in a rather simpler form in their war against India, which, the pilot, the Pakistani pilot, didn't have to see its target on the radar because it could see the whole situation, the whole map. We call this in the West the IRS, Intelligence, Reconnaissance, Surveillance. This was the big asset that the United States gave to the Ukrainians, the ability to have an integrated type of targeting and data all in one, all presented, even down onto a laptop if necessary, but onto a cockpit or into a missile center. So what I'm saying is, and there's no confirmation of this from the Chinese or anyone, they keep quiet about it, but this time the shoe is on the other foot. It's the Iranians that have the IRS, the Intelligence, Reconnaissance, Surveillance. It's quite clear. I mean, I don't have to prove it because, when a B-1 takes off from Fairford Airport, RAF in England, the Iranians pick it up within a second that it's taken off and they can plot where it's going and what to do about it. So they obviously have much more sophisticated, if you like, targeting and data management than in the past. I think the Russians helped it in a different way, more with drones. The Iranians helped the Russians initially with their drones, the Shahin drones. I mean, the Russians asked for them for use in Ukraine, and they took them, and then they upgraded them, and now some of that upgrading is coming back to Iran, courtesy, I think, of Russia.
How difficult would it be for the United States to defeat militarily the Iranian regime at this point?
Oh, as such, I don't think it's possible. Not in that sense. If you mean to destroy their ability to continue a military conflict with Israel and the United States bases in the region, I don't think they can. The Iranians have even buried their construction plants for missiles. They're not on the surface. And these missiles, they come up. If they're not on in a mountain coming out on the train, they come up from silos, 200 meters deep, and they just come straight up out of the silo. And then a new rocket, a new missile is automatically, there's a rotating, if you like, drum, and it moves the next missile directly. It doesn't get exposed. It's not out in the open. It's 200 meters underground. And then the airtight door shuts as soon as the missile has left. I think it would be very, very difficult to defeat Iran in that sense, to destroy its military capabilities. And it would be even less possible to take control of Hormuz now from Iran. You have to look at the geography, and the terrain of Hormuz to understand why this would just really be a non-stop.